BTS. 7 men from South Korea who went from being unknown rookies to the biggest boy band in the world. But along the way, they've faced serious accusations: racism, sexism, cultural appropriation. These are heavy charges, especially for artists whose message is often about love, self-acceptance, and unity. So, how did it happen? And why do some of these criticisms no longer seem to hold true? To answer that, we need to go back to the very beginning, not just to the start of BTS's career, but to the cultural world they were born into. South Korea, early 1990s to early 2000s. This was a country undergoing massive change, booming economically, growing in pop culture influence, but still shaped by centuries of Confucian traditions. Confucianism emphasized hierarchy, gender roles, and social harmony. It also reinforced a conservative view of family and relationships. For decades, South Korea had been relatively closed off to large-scale immigration and multicultural influence. The idea of racial purity, that Koreans should only marry Koreans, was deeply ingrained for many. Even today, studies show that some people in Korea still view interracial relationships negatively, although younger generations are far more open. This is the world BTS's members grew up in. It's not about excusing mistakes, but it's critical context. Because for them, certain words, jokes, or styles might have seemed completely normal in Korea, but to an international audience, those same things could come across as outdated, extreme, or even offensive. In June 2013, BTS debuted with No More Dream. They were marketed as a hip-hop idol group with a rebellious, anti-establishment image. This was unusual. Most K-pop groups were polished and glamorous, but BTS wore snapbacks, gold chains, and loose basketball jerseys, styles heavily associated with Black American hip-hop culture. In one early music video, RM wore dreadlock-style braids. At the time, it barely caused a ripple in Korea. But internationally, it sparked accusations of cultural appropriation. Some of their early lyrics also drew criticism. Songs like War of Hormone included lines that many found sexist, objectifying women and portraying them as prizes for men to fight over. And while these lines fit the brash hip-hop persona they were channeling, the impact was real. International fans and critics began to ask, is BTS out of touch with global conversations about race and gender? To understand why these issues weren't caught internally, you have to remember. The K-pop industry in 2013 was far less globally aware than it is now. Back then, most agencies were focused on the Korean market and maybe Japan or China. Cultural sensitivity to Western audiences? Not a priority. So when BTS wore clothing styles tied to Black culture, or when their lyrics objectified women, many in Korea didn't see it as controversial. But online, things were changing. International fans were louder than ever, especially on platforms like Twitter and Tumblr. And these fans were quick to point out problematic moments, not just for BTS, but for many K-pop acts. The criticism stung. Some fans defended BTS fiercely, saying they were misunderstood. Others argued that defending them wasn't enough, that they needed to learn and do better. From 2015 onwards, BTS started touring internationally. For the first time, they weren't just performing in Seoul or Tokyo, they were playing in Los Angeles, Chicago, Sydney, Paris. They met fans face-to-face from dozens of countries, with different languages, skin colors, and life experiences. This changed them. In interviews, members began talking about how eye-opening it was to see the diversity of ARMY. They started paying closer attention to global conversations, not just about music, but about racism, sexism, and mental health. The music began to reflect this shift. Albums like the Most Beautiful Moment in Life series carried deeper, more universal themes: youth, self-discovery, social pressure. Gone were the brash lyrics about girls as trophies. Instead, we heard songs about vulnerability, self-worth, and empathy. ARMY wasn't just a fan base, they became a feedback loop. International fans weren't afraid to speak up when something felt wrong. And BTS, unusually for a K-pop act, actually listened. One example. After criticism over War of Hormone, BTS stopped performing it live for years and even reworked certain lyrics during concerts. Fans also educated the group on cultural appropriation, historical contexts, and inclusive language. It wasn't always smooth. Sometimes the conversations got heated. But over time, it was clear that BTS was adjusting based on what they learned. BTS has rarely made flashy press conference apologies, but they have addressed past controversies in interviews, fan meetings, and even in music. RM in particular has been open about his growth. In 2015, he spoke about rereading old lyrics and realizing some of them were wrong. He admitted he didn't understand certain issues back then, but was actively trying to educate himself. The group also started collaborating with global charities, speaking at the United Nations, and promoting messages of self-love and equality. This wasn't just a rebrand, it was a consistent shift over years. By the late 2010s, BTS had gone from being accused of cultural insensitivity to being praised for using their platform to promote diversity and inclusivity. They spoke out against anti-Asian hate during the COVID-19 pandemic. They donated to Black Lives Matter, matching a $1 million fan fundraiser. They've supported mental health awareness, LGBTQ+ rights, and education programs worldwide. This evolution didn't erase their past, but it did show growth. BTS's journey is a reminder that public figures can change, but it takes listening, humility, and consistent action. The members came from a society with blind spots, stepped into a global spotlight, made mistakes, and then used those mistakes as fuel to become better. Are they perfect now?
No.
No artist is. But the BTS of today is not the BTS from 2013. And whether you're an ARMY or not, you can't deny their growth from local rookies to global artists who understand the weight of their words and actions. So, here's the real question. Do you believe this transformation is genuine personal growth, or just the smartest PR strategy in music history?